This is Daniel with Flippin Reality Homes. You started doing some research probably. You want to learn how to flip houses or you want to wholesale houses in real estate. And everyone always has questions. I know when I first started in the business, I had a lot of questions too, right? But the ones that really truly do something about it are the ones that's really going to stay up day, night, 7 days a week, look at every single video there is, pay for classes. I mean, they're gonna do everything that they possibly can, right, to make something happen. You always see the ones asking pretty basic, simple questions. Something that you could probably learn within a minute if you just Google it, you know. And it's not that I don't care to teach those type of people, but if you really, really, truly want to learn and you want to make the effort to get into this business and you're willing to do the work, you're willing to learn everything that you possibly can, become experts in what you do, it'll go by pretty smoothly. You'll make a lot of money. What I can tell you is it's a little bit more simpler than people actually tell you. There was a few hiccups that I had when I first started about 4.5 years ago. And I wish that I had known those things. It cost me money. Not only did it cost me money, but I didn't make as much money as I probably could have. But it's a pretty simple process, right? If you're wholesaling, you're finding the properties, right? Which is the main key to wholesaling, right? It's not your sales pitch. It's not anything else. I mean, it really comes down to actually finding the property. And then the negotiation kicks in and the numbers, and you have to know what those numbers are. We don't go by, when I first started, there was a formula that I thought that's what it had to be. If it didn't meet that criteria, it wasn't a deal, and so on, right? But that's really technically not right. You have to know which market you're in. You have to know if you're in a flip market or you're in a buy and hold market. Maybe you're in both. It just really kind of depends, right? Finding buyers is not going to be an issue. I mean, everybody uses Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, there's plenty of buyers out there, right? If it's a deal, it will sell. If it doesn't sell, it's obviously not a deal, right? So you don't necessarily have to go by a formula per se, right? But let's say you have an owner that wants to sell their property for whatever reason. I don't really care, and they're, just for shits and giggles, they're motivated. They want to sell. They want to sell right now. They want to sell fast, but they know what they want. Let's say a house that's worth 150, they want 130. They pretty much know what they want, right? I would never ever say to a seller, "Oh no, that's not a deal. Yeah, I was looking for 100. I was looking for 70." Anything like that. I want to ask more questions, right? I want to get everything out there. I want to, basically what I want to do is I want to pre-qualify them, right? I want to know exactly if there's anything wrong with the property, and if so, what is it? I want to know about the major stuff, right? I want to know about the AC. I want to know about the flooring. I want to know about the roof. I want to know about foundation work. I want to know, everything, right? And I also want to know if that house has been updated. When's the last time it's been updated, right? Is it 1970 standard, or is it 2021, which is the current year we're in, right? So I want to know everything there is about this property. Once they tell me everything, I can kind of judge whether or not this place is going to need, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? And again, we're going back to depending on if it's going to be a flip or if it's going to be a rental, right? And what I mean by that is a flip, you're going to spend a lot more money, right? You want to get everything up to date. You want to do everything. You want to paint. You want to floor. You want to maybe possibly new appliances. You want to do a lot of other things when you're doing a flip, right? You're almost going to spend double the amount that you're going to spend on a rental, right? So it's really getting to know those numbers. If you're selling, or maybe yourself is buying a rental, you don't, if the floors are good, you're not going to want to really change those, right? For what? You're going to be renting the place out. I mean, you want it to look somewhat decent, right? But you're not really going to you know, fix it up, to sell this thing in the retail market, right? You want to get everything working. You may want to address that foundation issue, but you don't necessarily have to, right? Of course, you want to address a leaking roof, right? If the roof is really bad, of course you want to change it. You want to fix all the electrical and the plumbing to make sure that you're not going to have issues over the years with tenants and calling you up and stuff like that. Even if you have a management company, I mean, the stuff still has to be dealt with, right? So you're gonna want to fix the necessities and bypass the cosmetic stuff, right? So you find a seller, they're wanting, let's just say $20,000 less than what market value is, but it still needs $20,000 worth of work, right? It doesn't seem like it's a good deal, right? But when you really look into something and you find out, let's say that $150,000 home rents out for $2,000 a month, it changes everything, right? Changes everything. And honestly, I mean, that's a good buy and hold investment, right? A lot of investors out there are looking for 1% of rent comps, right? Of whatever the value is. Let's say the house is $150,000. You're looking for a minimum of $1,500 a month in rent in that general area, right? And you kind of want to be in that subdivision, but we can get into that later. But if that same house is market rents are going for $2,000, right, or even anything more than $1,500, it could still possibly be a deal, So I wouldn't give up, on whatever a seller is telling you. And just about every seller kind of lies a little bit to you. Don't take it to heart. They're telling you everything is fine, everything is working, nothing is wrong with this place, it is perfect condition. No, I mean, is it really? You don't know until you get there, right? So I try to set an appointment with everybody as long as it's somewhat realistic, right? I'm not gonna go out to a house that's worth 150,000 and they want 200,000 for it. I'm just probably gonna just pass that right up. I'm probably not gonna do it. Not gonna even waste my time because in some kind of way it is a numbers game, right? The more calls you make, the more appointments you set, the more people you can get in front of, the more deals you're gonna make, right? And I'm just talking about from a wholesale perspective, right? Sometimes I wholesale deals, I flip houses as well. But when we're talking about wholesaling, I mean, there's times when I've bought, a couple hundred leads to, 10,000 leads. And I get these off various sources of listing services that where we buy these leads. And I call them. It could be anything from probates to tax delinquents to just about anything, right? And I can spend anywhere from 500 to thousands. I mean, I've spent $10,000 on a marketing campaign or lead generating um, tools that I've had to use, right? Not only once you buy the leads, but you got to skip trace them. You got to, you know, there's all kinds of dialers out there that you can make phone calls if you're going to hire VAs, if you're going to do it yourself. My wife and I first started about 4.5 years ago. We were doing it the long way, right? We were literally, you know, looking up someone's house, each individual house, trying to figure out who owned the house. This is before we even knew what to do and how to get on the county website and find out who the owner was and so on. And instead of even skip tracing someone, we just Googled their name, and hopefully, you know, we could call every single number in there. And what we did was we literally punched each number into the phone, right? And it was really funny because we actually ended up getting a deal after dialing, you know, 300 plus numbers this way. It took forever. And, you know, honestly, I'm glad that we did it. We learned a lot, and that's something that you're going to have to learn too. So really, after we started learning, buying these lists and skip tracing and hiring VAs, we had an assistant. You know, we were calling, after doing all this, we picked up a dialer, and we were able to dial, you know, anywhere from a couple hundred to, you know, 500 calls a day, right? Numbers wise, right? We wouldn't contact that many people, but we would at least dial through that many numbers, because, you know, half of them is probably going to be disconnected. And if a skip tracing company out there is telling you that they're 80, 90, 95%, 100% of what do you call it? Accuracy, I guess you could say, they're lying. Yeah, definitely don't believe that, because they're not. These numbers are pulled and generated from a lot of different sources, like, you know, from credit apps, previous credit apps, and credit histories, and, you know, just, you know, previous addresses, you know, utility bill, phone numbers, and, you know, just whatever you've signed up for, and you put your phone number down. Whatever number you put down, it doesn't matter if you had a phone number that was 5 years ago and you changed it already 2 or 3 times. You might get that number that's 5 years old, right? So you're going to get multiple numbers for each and every person. You got to call them all. You don't necessarily have to ask for that person, but we prefer to ask for that person and that address, because we, like I said, we filter a lot of stuff out. So anyways, you have a house that you called, and they're somewhat interested in this house. You find out all of the facts about the house, and then it comes down to, after you made that appointment, you went out there and seen it. It's somewhat of a decent deal, could be possible. It has potential. Now you're going to get to the numbers and negotiating the number, right? Let's use the example again. The house is worth 150. They want it 130, and it needs 20,000 in work. So it takes us back up to 150, but the rent costs are 2,000. Let's say, you know, from that 130, you got to factor in too that who's going to pay those closing costs, right? And hopefully there's no liens and, you know, abstract judgments or anything of that nature, that they're going to have to pay out. And remember, as a wholesaler, you know, you're not going to, you want to be honest, right? But you have to know that, you know, that 130 could, after closing costs and everything, could come down to, you know, 127, you know, 126, whatever it might be, right? You're going to try to negotiate this deal for the least amount of money possible, right? I don't agree with trying to, kill the people, right? I mean, you don't want to. They're at 130, and you're like, I'll give you 50,000. I just don't agree with those kind of numbers. But be reasonable about it, right? They're already gonna be thinking that they're gonna be getting 130, and in reality, they're probably gonna get 126. So any number lower than that, they're gonna get even that much more less, right? So I would probably try my best to, you know, get it down close to the 110 area. You know, if you couldn't do that, this is where your sales tactics, mine are a little bit different than yours, and you're gonna have to use what you know, right? I was in the car business, so I was able to learn a lot of trades and things that we said to people to make them buy, right? So I use those same trades to the sellers that I talk to and try to get them down on a price, right? So you use your own stuff for that. So yeah, so I would more than likely try to get them down to 130. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. 110. And just say they come back to you and they're like, well, I'll take 125. They went down $5,000, right? I know that it's a deal, right? I'm already thinking in my head already that even at 130, rent comps are 2,000, or let's just be a little bit more reasonable and let's just say the rent comps are 1,500, right? I know that it's possible that it's still a deal, right? But I mean, what investor wants to walk into a property and pay retail, right? They don't want to pay 150 for something. I mean, just go on MLS and go buy something, right? They need a little bit, right? So they want a little bit of equity, and they want to make sure that the rental comps are, at least at 1% or more. So at 130, right? I know that it's still a deal, right? But remember, it needs $20,000 in work here. So, and if that place is not currently being rented out, I mean, I'm not really getting a good deal, right? It's going to be a little hard to sell that to another investor. So, and I'm just using these numbers. We can get into learning more about the numbers on a different video, but if they're at 125, they went down there $5,000, I'm at 110, look, I can go to a maximum 115. That's where I'm at. I would try my best, and then hopefully, you can get them at least down to 120, and then maybe hopefully you could sell it, for 125, make a little five, so that's a wholesale side. Now, once you get this thing and you agree on numbers with the seller, the next thing to do is to get them to sign the contract, right? And you never want to wait. You never, ever, ever, ever want to wait, right? You want to make sure that you get them to sign that contract right away, by any means. A lot of the older folks, not all, but there are some, they don't have emails, they don't, mess around with computers and stuff, so you're going to have to print it out, you're going to have to take it over there, you're going to have them sign it, and you're going to have to explain the contract in most of the time, because they may not know the terminology or whatever's on that contract, right? Either way it goes, get the contract signed. Once you get the contract signed, you're going to upload that thing to the title company, whatever title company, investor friendly, most title companies are investor friendly, so it's not something that you really truly have to worry about. You can literally get on Google Maps, type in title, real estate title companies, and a bunch of them will pop up. Just start calling them, are you investor friendly, or ask somebody on Facebook, whatever it might be, to get there. But that's another thing that we could talk about later. But I have my specific ones that I like to use. I've used a whole bunch of them, and some of them are better and good at things that others are not. So you're gonna simply, once that contract is signed, you're gonna upload that thing to the title company to open title. They're gonna open the title search to make sure everything is clear, that they are the owner, and so on. Hopefully everything is clear. If it is, and you could, technically speaking, market the property before you even have a buyer. Some wholesalers, I have done both ways. I have waited until the title was clear, and that's another video too. Some sellers are a little sketchy. There's other people involved. Maybe it's a probate, whatever. It's a little sketchy. So I want to, get it to title. I want to open up title. I want to make sure that it's clear before I even show it to any of my buyers, right? If the title's clear, and you begin to market this thing, we're going back to numbers again, because numbers are the most important thing in this business. If you know the numbers and you know how to make those numbers work, and you know what the market is on a specific house, and you know that it's a deal, right? So I'm gonna market it out there. Let's say he agreed at the 115. I'm gonna market it out there for 125, and kind of go from there, but again, numbers is everything, right? That's a whole nother video. So once you have the buyer, say an investor comes by, you might have to show the property. A lot of wholesalers lie, and they say to the seller or the owner of the property that, I'm gonna bring my contractors by, and they're gonna take a look at it and give me some estimates and so on, right? I'm guilty. I've done that when I first started. I no longer do that. It was lying to the customers, to the clients. It's best to go ahead and tell them, like, you can say words like my investor partners. You can say, anything else, but you're actually the one buying the property, and those are contractors. I would not say either one of those. Avoid the question if you can, but at the same time, you might want to just go ahead and tell them, like, hey, I have a network of investors, and all I do is, sell these properties to them. I find them and I sell them to them. You're still getting your money. You're not paying me any commission. You're not having to pay for inspections, appraisals, or anything like that. So no worries there. They're always going to be cash buyers, so you don't have to deal with loans. I mean, there's many things that you can say to that seller to make them still feel comfortable with you, right? And that's it. Find the buyer. You got a buyer. You tell title company, this is the buyer, this is their contact information, so on, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully that buyer is a real buyer, and they're not another wholesaler trying to daisy chain it. I mean, we're all guilty of that as well. So if that happens, I make everybody, buyers, other wholesalers that want a daisy chain, I make them put earnest money, right? And they're gonna put, it could be all the way to 10% earnest money. But yeah, you're definitely gonna put some earnest money. If you wanna put this under contract, right? If you're another wholesaler who wants a daisy chain off of you, sure, I'll let you do that. Just give me $3,000 non-refundable, and we can make that happen, I want something out of it, right? And if you're a buyer, if you're on the other side of that, and you're an actual buyer, a real buyer, an investor buyer, I'm still gonna ask for earnest money. I'm still gonna be somewhere close to the 1% at least, if not more. You don't want it to be, and there's a reason why, you want to ask for a little bit more. And again, that's another video. But yeah, definitely ask for earnest money from every person that is a potential buyer of that property. Earnest money deposit is what you call it. So, and that's it. You found that buyer, you close on it. I mean, it's really that simple. There's not a lot of steps to this. You don't have to be a rocket science. scientists. You don't have to really have that much of an education to really do this. You just have to be willing to learn. You just have to be willing to do the work and go through with the process. There is times when a deal may not go through. Don't let it discourage you. We've had that happen plenty of times, right? For whatever the reason. And you just got to keep going. It's a numbers thing, numbers game, and you basically got to keep going. So get more properties. On the flip side of everything, a little bit different. We flip properties. We try to do at least one a month, and it just really kind of depends. But we've had a lot to learn over the years with flipping houses. It's definitely not your HGTV, Joanna and Chip, and it's not that way. They make it almost like a fantasy dream world, and it just doesn't. There's a lot of stuff that's left out in those shows. Don't believe everything that you see, even the numbers. Don't believe everything that you see. Are we looking for a major score? Hell yeah, we are. That big margin, sometimes we've definitely made, in upwards of, well, I won't get into that, but we've definitely made quite a bit flipping houses. But yeah, it's something that it's a different world. It's a different beast. We love it. It definitely keeps you on your toes. That's definitely another video. But the same for a flip. It's always truly, truly, truly about your numbers. If you get the numbers right, you win. That's it. You get the numbers wrong, you don't plan for any kind of buffer. Something always goes wrong in a flip. You may get busted for permitting, or you didn't know that once you took down that sheetrock that it was infested with termites and the framing is practically gone. You don't even know how the house was actually standing. I mean, there's things that happen, AC burned up, whatever the case might be, right? There's always something. So if you didn't allow for that buffer, $5,000-$10,000 is fine, maybe more. Then you're definitely going to pay for it later, So you got to know the numbers in the flip side of the real estate world. So, anyways, you got any questions? Reach out, Daniel, Flippin' Reality Homes, and I can answer your questions. If you're in the Houston area, even in Texas, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, and you got questions, I can do a one-on-one. Of course, I'm going to charge you, but one-on-one in person. But if you do have any questions at all, ask them in the comments. I'll try to answer them as best I can. If I don't know, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything, because I don't. And anybody that tells you that they do, they're lying. They're trying to get your money. We've spent thousands of dollars on courses, and out of those courses, probably one of them probably taught us the most. The rest of them were kind of a waste. We could have probably learned that on our own. And anyways, grab a mentor, do whatever you need to do to learn. It's pretty simple once you get to know it. And that's it. Comment, like, subscribe. I'm gonna come out with a little bit more video of actual flips. And I'm gonna go step by step of actually what I'm doing. I'm gonna videotape a whole flip from day one, from talking to the seller, because we try to actually find our own deals. We have bought deals from other sellers because we needed a house to flip, and we didn't have one at the time, so we have bought you know, 3 or 4 from other wholesalers, but we try to find our own. So I'm gonna take it from day one of talking to the seller to negotiating it, to closing it, to closing at the title company, day one rehab to start to finish, and listing it and selling it, and showing you the profit. So I'm going to get that done soon. Just give me a little bit more time, and we'll get that video for you. But if you got any questions, comment, and like and subscribe. Thanks. Daniel, Flippin Reality Homes.